payroll. Just trying to think. Caveat, health and safety, you probably have like incident reports and that kind of thing too. I should think that dates are important there.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is just like Excel. You can extract things from a date value, such as what day of it was it. Week numbers, in the States we don't use that too much, but internationally you see week number used a lot more. What I'd really point out is GMT, I think, is really useful. I suspect some of you do, have international, other partners overseas, or if you have teams that are working overseas. GMT really does come in handy if you have to make sure that everybody has a common time. Like 4:30 on the East Coast is not the same as 4:30 on the West Coast or overseas or whatever. So that's kind of a nice way to standardize your data. I think that's a good one to know about. The other thing that I wanted to show you, and if you are comfortable with what we've done so far and you're really leaning forward here, page 87 that says alt is really a nice one to know about. This is a nice, clean solution to a problem that we encounter quite a bit. What this means is alt means provide an alternative. And basically, it returns the first parameter that has a valid number representation, right? Now, if it doesn't find one of these arguments, and it could be multiple ones, if it doesn't find a valid numeric representation, it will just return whatever the last argument is. And I know you're probably looking at that going, yeah, why do I want this? Well, it's a nice way to what's called trap for null values. Now, null value just means that there is no value, so to speak, right? So, for instance, if I said to Renee, hey, Renee, how many do we have of, product Z in inventory? And she doesn't answer, right? Now, would I be justified in writing down 0? The answer is no. We might have, a zillion of those things, but she just didn't answer. That's a null value. So basically, if we don't have any sales in this particular field, we could replace it with 0, right? And that's going to look cleaner in our report. And quite often, some of your other formulas and so forth might require a value, even if it's 0. Right? That's a great example. And same thing with margin here too. Now, some of you may be familiar with a function that Microsoft uses quite a bit, like say Access or Excel. Actually, I can't remember if Excel uses this, but it's called NZ, and you have some kind of number in there or something. It actually doesn't even have to be a number; it just could be any value. And if it is null, we could return a 0, right? Or we could type in whatever we want. If we just did that, that's going to return a 0. This alt business stands in for NZ, null to 0, in case you're familiar with that. If you're not, I got to say, I like that alt business. That's a pretty good one.
Is it similar to NVL and SQL?
NV, which one?
NVL.
Yeah, so if there's a null value, just return whatever you specify. Yeah, same deal. But here's the nice thing about this. You can do a whole string of things with this rather than just being relegated to 2 things. I think you can only do 2 in the SQL statement, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so you could just keep rolling. Try this field, try this field, try this field. Yeah, so pretty cool. They did a nice job with that. All right, last bit here for today, guys, and then we're pretty much done. This is on page 87. This is folder connections. And basically what we do with this section is if we have, a bunch of data files that we're using, we can use this almost like a variable pointing to that particular container or folder. So we can reuse, we can recycle, so to speak. So with that said, let's go back into Qliksense again. Final one for today. We're going to close up this example. You can save and close these up. Might have to save a couple times there. And that should take us back to the hub hub. And we're going to create a new app. And when we hit create new app, we're going to call this folder con, and create. And we're going to open app. And we're going to go to the script editor. All right. And off to the right-hand side, once that settles down, again, create new connection. Now, we went in here for our ODBC example, but for this one, we're going to say folder. Here it is right here, folder. All right. And we're going to have to navigate here a little bit. We're going to go to C drive. We're going to go here to data. All right. And we should see, let's see, Qliksense intro. And then right there, we should see chapter 3. Chapter 3. And that's pretty much it. Down here on the bottom where it says name, we're going to call that data sources, meaning we're going to dump all of our data files in that folder, maybe. Data sources, and create. Okay. And then having done that, that's all well and good, but what just happened here, right? Well, if you notice, we have this button here, select data. Go ahead and click on that, select data. And notice it goes right to that particular folder, right? So it's almost like a shortcut in that respect. I'm going to select sample customer reports, that Excel file, and hit select. All right. And same thing that we've seen before, we're going to accept the defaults for this one. This looks pretty good. Oops, sorry, that was sample customer reports. Sample customer reports. Yeah, you had it. Go back to chapter 3. Sample, go down a little bit.
It won't let me click on it.
That's a little bit odd. Let me see, why is that? Oh, yeah, sorry, you didn't create the connections. Go down to where it says name.
Yeah.
And we're going to say data source. There you go. And then create. And then go back to that button. I'll just put your cursor on there. All right, so that one right there. So now we're going back to select that. Now click on sample customer reports.
And select.
Yeah, you got it. Okay, good. Yep. And let me get back on my screen here. Sorry, let me get out of there. Okay, so we're accepting the defaults here, guys. We're going to say insert script. Right? And all I can really think to point out as a result of this is it just saves you a little bit of space in the script. If nothing else, you can see right here, data sources. Hey, wait a minute, data sources here, the names match, right? So that's going to, make it easier to point to that particular folder. Also, if you change the location of that folder, it's pretty easy to get back in there and edit the connection rather than having to go through all your scripts and stuff. So that's why that's a little bit easier. And we will bump up against that as we move along as well, by the way. And I'm just looking here. Hey, we did it. All right. So before we wrap up for today, guys, I'll pause there for a moment. Anybody, any questions on that last bit there at all? Anybody, any questions on anything that we did here today?
Is it the same for creating a connection to Oracle database, or meaning do I have to create a connection for each application, or can I create same how we did?
Yeah, I would just point out that when you create a new database, if you remember right out of the gate, or a new application rather, right out of the gate, it says, hey, add data from files and other sources. And I would just point out that when you get in here, there is an option just for Oracle.
Yeah, I know about this, but do I have to create a connection each time when I create the application?
Yeah, no, that's a tough one. I'll be honest with you. I don't want to lead you astray because I don't have to connect to Oracle. No one will let me into their Oracle database. Does that surprise you? Yeah, so I'm not sure if you could create the data source name that we described earlier, which if I were to sit down and tackle it right now, I would try to create the data source name that we talked about before. But that would be ODBC, right? With this, I'm pretty sure that you would have to just put in the connection properties for that application.
Okay.
Right? Now, once you're in the application, you don't need to do that again. But you do have to do this for each and every application.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah, good. All right. Anybody else have any questions there?
As a follow-up question to that, so let's say you have some...
Guys, I say I went over just a little bit here today.
Oh, I actually have a question about, I guess, putting together, for instance, data from other sources like, for instance, Salesforce. If I would like to merge data from Salesforce and, for instance, from SQL, I guess you will just have to create a connection with the database like we did, and also with Salesforce, and then you just merged the different tables.
Yep. And what's the important thing to remember when you merge those tables, so to speak?
To create a link?
Yeah. You got to make sure that your field names match, right? If you want to create a join between those. Right?
Okay.
Okay, that's important now, right? Because we want the field names to match, and it's going to be case sensitive too. But other than that, yeah, that's one of the strengths of the program, is that we can pull data from all kinds of different things. So kind of like we did today, we took some data from Excel and also added something from a text file, right? So you can pull it all together in that one spot. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good one. All right, so guys, tomorrow being Friday, promise I won't go over. Right? Thank you for your patience, guys. I know it's a long